They did not want a car park. They wanted a test case. And they picked the one farmer in Britain who could not quietly disappear. Right now, Jeremy Clarkson is technically waiting on permission for something so ordinary it should be boring. Paint lines on his own land so his visitors stop parking on the road. But follow the paperwork, and something else appears. This was never just about parking. It was an experiment in how much red tape one successful farm can survive before it breaks. And the part nobody's talking about is this. The only people who have been consistently clear, calm, and honest in this entire story are the ones being accused of causing the chaos. Because Clarkson's own team have already put the truth in writing. Season 6 of Clarkson's Farm has been commissioned. It is filming now. It is due to air in summer 2027. In planning speak, that is as specific as it gets. 3 years of television, 3 more summers of visitors, 3 more seasons of traffic on a narrow Cotswolds lane. And in the middle of that, one simple request. Keep the only safe solution switched on until 2030. That is the real sentence that matters. 3 further years to monitor and review thereafter seems appropriate. That is not a man trying to pull a fast one. That is a farmer tying his ass to a broadcast schedule the whole world already knows about. No tricks, no vague timeline. A clear window, in black and white. So how did a straight line become a maze? It begins with a field that stopped behaving like an ordinary field the moment a TV crew showed up. Diddley Squat is not just any farm. It sits inside the Cotswolds area of outstanding natural beauty. Those 5 words sound poetic. They are, in practice, a legal tripwire. Every small change on that land has to clear a higher hurdle than it would almost anywhere else in England. Fences, gravel, car parks. Things most farmers can sort out with one form and a sensible phone call suddenly require hearings, inspectors, and perfectly worded statements. So when Clarkson asked for a restaurant in 2021 and West Oxfordshire District Council said no, that should have been the end of it. Most people would have walked away. He almost did. But here's where the story changes. In August 2022, instead of giving up on diversification completely, he tried a different route. A 40-cover restaurant inside Lowland Barn. Not built from scratch, not hidden, not rushed through in the dark. Created using the same permitted development rights any farmer can use to bring a dead agricultural building back to life. He followed a rulebook the system wrote, and 12 days later, the system changed the rules. The council served an enforcement notice. The restaurant closed within weeks. The cost was not just emotional. In Clarkson's own words, as a result of this, I've had to sell most of the cows I bought. And now I'm back to using chemicals. I no longer wish to open a restaurant. That is not a celebrity tantrum. That is a supply chain collapsing in one paragraph. Cattle bought for a beef-based menu sold off. A push towards less chemical input reversed. A diversification project designed to support British farming wiped out in under a season. Here's the part most people miss. The failure is the product. The more obviously the farm loses money on paper, the more compelling the television becomes. And the more compelling the television, the longer Amazon keeps paying to watch a man argue with bureaucracy in the rain. This was never just a restaurant. It was a case study in what happens when an old system meets a new kind of farm. By January 2023, Clarkson had reached the only logical conclusion any exhausted farmer would. He wrote to the council and made his position painfully clear. We do not wish to expand the on-site businesses any further. We are perfectly happy with what we have. Contrary to some of the claims being made, I do not want to turn Diddley Squat Farm into Disneyland. It is, after all, where I live. But we really do need on-site parking. Strip the name off that letter and it could have come from any rural business owner. No demand for a theme park. No demand for a hotel. Just a request to move cars off a public road and onto private land. And this is where the logic breaks. The same enforcement notice that shut down the restaurant ended up tied to a separate refusal on the car park. So Clarkson did the only rational thing left. He appealed both. On paper, that looks contradictory. In reality, it is the exact opposite. He tried, briefly, to accept a bad outcome quietly. Then he saw the numbers, the animals, and the staff it would cost him. And he did what any farmer with something to protect would do. He fought it. The appeal ran over 2 days in March 2023. Planning Inspector R.J. Perrins walked the site twice. 2 days. 2 visits. for a barn and a patch of gravel. On the restaurant, Perrin sided with the council. It had to go. His ruling was blunt. 6 weeks was more than sufficient to restore the land to its previous condition. 6 weeks. To tear out a business that gave local people jobs and local producers a menu. In a sector everyone agrees cannot survive on subsidy and unpredictable weather alone. But even in that moment, something else quietly shifted. On the car park, the inspector did not just blink and wave it through. He looked at the same evidence, the same traffic, the same country lane, and he granted it. He approved an extension to the existing parking. He formalized what had been temporary. He allowed new access arrangements and a small cafe space tied to the lambing shed. In one decision, he did something the arguments on both sides had failed to do. He separated noise from necessity. The restaurant, in his view, had crossed a line. The cars had not. The car park, in that moment, was not the problem. It was the solution. From June 2023, Clarkson had 3 years of legal certainty, roughly to 2026. Enough time to prove, in practice, that moving cars off the lane and onto his land did exactly what everyone said they wanted. Fewer near misses, fewer blind bends, fewer photos of tailbacks on TikTok. So why are we here again? Because this was not the first car park application, and it was never the last. Before Perrin's even delivered his ruling, there was already a different bid in February 2023. A temporary car park for 70 cars, 4 rows, on a 60 by 32 meter field, to run until January 2025. Then came the inspector's 3-year window, expiring around 2026. Now, in 2026, the ask is simple. Extend it to 2030. 3 different applications. The same patch of ground. The same problem. The same solution. If that feels absurd, it is because it is. This is not a farmer dragging things out. This is what a risk-averse system looks like when it cannot bring itself to commit longer than a few years at a time. It forces working businesses back into the same fight over and over again, hoping perhaps they will get too tired to keep showing up. And then, halfway through writing its own defense, the council accidentally told the truth. In 2023, reacting to how obstructive they looked on television, West Oxfordshire District Council said this: "We understand that the planning process shown in Season 2 of Clarkson's Farm can seem obstructive. Not might seem, can seem." Their word. Then came the line they cling to most. As with any other planning authority, we have a legal responsibility to make sure that planning laws and policies are followed correctly by everyone. This is regardless of who they are, and we treat Diddley Squat Farm no differently. It sounds fair, it reads well, and it collapses under its own evidence, because a year later, they admitted something else. We encouraged Diddley Squat Farm to make an application for a temporary car park long before the appeal. Stop on that sentence. They are on record saying they told him to sort parking out. He did. It still took a full appeal, a 2-day hearing, and an independent inspector to get the very solution they had encouraged signed off. That is not even ironic. That is circular. The council's own statements work hard to sound generous. They list the lambing shed, the barn, the shop. They insist they do not want the farm shop to close. They say they are pleased local produce is being sold there. They end with, "Our door has always been open and will remain open should they choose to work with us." But an open door is meaningless if you keep moving the corridor. Because behind the press releases is a paper trail that shows something brutally simple. A farm has had to fight 3 times in 3 years for the one thing almost everyone involved now agrees is necessary. Not everyone in the village sees it that way, and honesty demands saying that out loud. After the restaurant closure, one resident called it a win for the community and said the farm was in the wrong place. That is a real voice. It comes from a real house on a real lane, and it deserves to be heard, because nobody wants to feel their home has been turned into a tourist attraction overnight. Set that against the rest of the record. A highways authority that backs the car park. A business that employs local people and sells local produce. A councillor who could not have been clearer. County Councillor Liam Walker put it in one line. Local councils need to understand and appreciate farming has significantly changed for many reasons, and the planning rules need to also change to allow them to diversify quickly. Farmers right across the country deserve our support. That is not fan mail. That is an elected official reading the same documents and reaching a